Okay, so let's try this again. Okay, so can you hear me better now? We're all good. Okay. Okay, sweet. So, what I was telling you on number one was this does not make a triangle because the sum of the two short sides, 4 and 7, has to be bigger than the third. So, since 11 is smaller than 16, then that means that it doesn't make a triangle. Okay, so that's the triangle inequality theorem that says those two short sides have to be bigger in order to make a triangle. Okay, so that's the first one. Okay, now moving on to number two. Okay, you have to remember how to list the angles in the triangle in order from smallest to largest. So the smallest angle is always across from the smallest side. So if I'm looking at my options here, 2.7 is going to be the smallest side. Okay, it's made up of angles K and M. So it's basically the angle that we didn't use yet. So the angle across from that is L. Okay, that's going to be the smallest angle because it's across from the shortest side. So if it's multiple choice, which it's going to be, look at your options and get rid of the ones that are not going to list L as the smallest angle. Okay, and then that will already narrow it down for you. So then you can also look at what comes next. Okay, between 4.8 and 6.5, 4.5 would be next. Okay, looking across from what side that is, KL would be angle M. So the only option that puts angle M as the second one is letter C. Okay, angle K would have to be the biggest angle because it's across from the longest side. And if you guys have any questions about something, just stop me, unmute yourself, and ask. And I want to make sure we all have a good understanding of what's on the quiz tomorrow. Okay. Last one on this page says list the angles of the triangle in order from smallest to largest. So if they give you a triangle like this, go ahead and draw it out. Okay, it's triangle ABC. Label it however you'd like. I'm going to do this. They tell you that the side AC is 6, BC is 8, and BA is 3. Okay. So again, you're going smallest to largest. So the shortest side, which is AB, the 3, is across from angle C. Okay, so that has to be the smallest. So again, if I'm looking at my options, I'm going to get rid of anything that does not list angle C first. Okay, then that way I have less to look at. Then the middle side is 6, and across from that is angle B. Okay, so the second angle would have to be B, okay, which leaves us with this one right here. Again, 8 is the longest side, so A is the biggest angle, okay, which is what they have listed right here. Okay. Any questions on the first page? Good. Okay. So now you're going to list the sides in order. So again, kind of relates to how the angles are. If you don't know what this third angle is right here, okay, you need to take 180, the total in the triangle, and subtract off the two angles that you do know, so 74 and 48. So if I take 180 minus 74 and 48, this angle ends up being 58 degrees right here. Okay, and I got to make sure that I know which one is the smallest. That's why I have to figure that out. Okay, so angle O is actually the smallest. Okay, it's 48 degrees. So across from angle O is going to be the shortest side. So across from angle O over here is NM. Okay, so NM or NM or MN, either way, is what we're looking for. Okay, so again, if I'm looking at my options, I don't want anything that has to do with side O. Okay, so MN for E or F. Okay. Now look for the second angle. Okay, 48 was the smallest, 58 would come next. Okay, that's angle N. Across from angle N is OM. Okay, OM is what I'm looking for next. Okay, so E has ON and F has OM. Any questions about finding the sides or the angles of which ones are which? Just remember that it's always the side or the angle that you're not using the variable from. So if you're talking about the side NM, okay, the only variable you didn't use there is O, so that's the angle that it goes with. Okay, vice versa. If it's angle O, you need the other two variables that you didn't use for the angle. Okay, so more triangle inequality theorem, okay, for 5 and 6. Okay, if you're looking at the sides, the two short sides, 1 and 2, and I add those up, that's going to give me 3. 3 is less than 4. For it to be a triangle, we need it to be greater than 4. Okay, so this is not going to make a triangle. So I need one of these no options, but again, make sure you pay attention to what they're adding. Okay, we added the two shortest, 1 and 2, so we need to make sure we click A. Okay, B looks like a no, but they added the wrong sides, 4 and 1. So make sure you list the right one there. Okay, same thing for 6. Okay, I have 4, 6, and 7. 4 and 6 are the smallest. So I'm going to add those and gives me 10. Okay, that is bigger than the third side, the longest side, which is 7. Okay, so this is going to make a triangle, so you're either looking at A or D. Okay, and you got to make sure you read the sum of the lengths is less than the length of the third side, or the sum of the lengths is greater than the length of the third side. You want to pick the one where those are greater. Questions about that page? And if I go too fast, or if you guys need something or go back and show you something, let me know. All right, number 7. Triangle has side lengths of 10 and 11. What does this say about the third side? Okay, so if you're talking about finding the third side, this is where you're going to take 10 plus 11 and 10 minus 11, or 11 minus 10, because we don't want negatives. Okay, that tells us how big it can possibly be and how small it can possibly be. Okay, so 10 plus 11, that's going to give me 21. 11 minus 10 is going to be 1. Okay, so if I'm looking at my options here, I'm first of all looking for things that have 21 and 1. So I'm not going to pick like C that has 10 and 11, or like B that has 10 and 11. Okay, so you got to make sure you added them and then you subtracted them. Okay, your option here is going to be G. Okay, the side has to be longer than 1 but shorter than 21. Okay, longer than the shortest one, okay, but shorter than the biggest side.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
What was the answer for number 4, 5, and 6? My Zoom cut out because my Wi-Fi is being crappy.
That's okay. Number 4 was F. Number 5 was A. And number 6 was D. Did you get all those?
What was number 6?
D as in dog.
Thank you.
Good?
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay. So on number 8, okay, same thing. We're looking at a triangle that has sides of 12 and 7. Okay, so we're going to take 12 plus 7 and 12 minus 7 and see what we come up with for the minimum and the maximum. Okay, so 12 plus 7, 19. 12 minus 7 is 5. Okay, so if I'm looking through my options here, I need it to be longer than 5 but shorter than 19. So that is going to be letter D. Any questions about 7 or 8? Both of those are similar. Okay, so then we're going to get into Pythagorean theorem, which is what we've been talking about the last 2 days. So remember Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, a and b have to be the short sides, which in this case would be 7 and 24. The longest side is always the hypotenuse, which is always c. Okay, so I'm going to take 7 squared plus 24 squared equals c squared. Right, and then I need to figure out what 7 squared and 24 squared are. Well, this one is obviously 49. 24 squared is 576. Okay, so if I add 49 and 576, I get 625. Okay, now remember that we don't want c squared, we just want c. Oh, I didn't want to fix that. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. So if I take the square root of 625, okay, that side has to be 25. Okay, so tomorrow for your test, you'll want your calculator. There is a calculator option on Math Excel. Even when the quiz is open, up at the top, you can use a calculator to do this on. If you brought your own home, then obviously that's fine. Okay, but if you didn't bring a calculator home, there will be an option for a calculator on the quiz. Number 10, okay, what is the value of x in the simplest form? Okay, so again, looking at Pythagorean theorem because this is a right triangle. Okay, so if I'm looking at 12 squared plus 16 squared equals x squared. Okay, again, I'm trying to solve for the hypotenuse. So 12 squared and 16 squared, if I add those together, I'm going to get 400. Okay, I don't need x squared, I just need x. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So the square root of 400 is going to give you 20. Okay, now going along with Pythagorean theorem was Pythagorean triples. Okay, does the set of numbers form a Pythagorean triple? Okay, the two shortest sides, 8 and 6, would have to be A and B. 9 would have to be C because it's the longest. So you're trying to figure out if this does make a Pythagorean triple or not. Okay. So I'm going to check and see if the left side equals the right side. So 8 squared is 64. 6 squared is 36. If I add those together, that gives me 100. If I do 9 squared, that's only 81.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I don't have the review, so I can use the notes I'm taking now.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Are you here, Leticia?
Yeah.
Okay, I can bring you one. Are you in 303?
Oh no, now I'm not there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can just take the notes and write it down and use that. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, to finish 11, okay, you have 100 and you have 81, okay? Those are obviously not equal to each other, okay? So that's not going to form a Pythagorean triple, okay? So we're going to look for the option that says no, okay? And it's because they do not satisfy that equation. Okay, any questions on any of those that were on that page? Okay. So number 12, same thing, trying to see if it forms a Pythagorean triple. Okay, 9, 15, and 18. 18 has to be C, it's the longest. Okay, so I'm trying to see if this is a true statement or not. So 9 squared is 81. Okay, 15 squared is 225. If I add those together, okay, that is going to give me 306. 18 squared is going to be 324. Okay, those two things are not the same. Okay, so that is not going to make a right triangle or a Pythagorean triple. Okay, so we're going to select no. Okay, the third one, because the given numbers do not satisfy that equation. Okay. Now, a little more about Pythagorean theorem and what we talked about yesterday. Okay, a 25-foot ladder is placed against a vertical wall with the bottom standing on level ground 24 feet from the base. How high up the wall does the ladder reach? So if I'm looking at my building, okay, here's my ladder. There's how far it is away. Okay, let's see, 24 feet from the base of the building, so this would be 24. 25-foot ladder. Okay, we're trying to figure out how tall it is, how far up the wall it goes. Okay, so trying to figure out what x is. Okay, ran out of room here. Let me redraw this real quick. There we go. Okay, so trying to figure out what x is, which means that's one of the legs of the triangle. The ladder is kind of like the hypotenuse. So 24 squared plus x squared equals 25 squared. Okay, and you're going to be solving that. So once you figure out what 24 squared is, you're going to have to move it to the right side and subtract it. Okay, so what you could also do is just say minus 24 squared and type that whole thing in your calculator. Okay, you can type in 25 squared minus 24 squared and see what you get. Okay, and that's going to end up giving you 49. Okay, and then I have to take the square root of both sides. So hopefully you do know the square root of 49. The square root of 49 is going to give you 7. Okay, so it's only going to go 7 feet up the wall, which makes sense because it's really far away from the building, so it's really slanted. So it's not going to go up very high because it's not very steep. Now, you do have the question about the walkway here. Okay, so talking about the square playground. Okay, and you have a walkway is 28 meters long. If you know it's a square playground, remember that means the sides are the same. And you're trying to figure out what's the length of one side. Okay, So the two sides would be like the legs, x squared plus x squared. That's equal to 28 squared, the walkway. So if I add my sides, x squared plus x squared, remember that's 2x squared, we're not changing the exponents. Okay, 28 squared is 784. Okay, then I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. So x squared is going to give me 392. Okay, then I'm going to take the square root of each one. Okay, and then I'm going to approximate it. Okay, now it says round to the nearest meter, so this is actually going to give me a decimal. It's going to say 19.79. Okay, but it wants the nearest meter, so that's like the nearest whole number. So that would round up to 20. Okay, so again, make sure that you're paying attention to what it's rounding to, what it wants. Okay, this one said round to the nearest meter. Back here it was round to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so it was a whole number, but if it had been a decimal, remember that's 2 decimal places. Okay, so just make sure you're paying attention to that part. Number 15, is the triangle a right triangle, yes or no? Okay, so for it to be a right triangle, it has to fit the Pythagorean theorem, okay, which remember is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Hopefully you have that memorized by now or written down somewhere. Okay, a and b are the two short sides, so 2 and 3. That has to be equal to the hypotenuse squared, so 4. 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, and 4 squared is 16. Now, if I add 4 and 9, that's only going to be 13, so that is not going to be the same as 16. Okay, so if those are not equal to each other, then it does not make a right triangle. Does anybody have any questions as of right now? Okay, remember, if you guys have a question, just unmute yourself and ask, or you can send it in the chat if you don't want to talk to everyone. Okay, so same thing for 16, except for now we're going into the acute, obtuse, or right triangles. Okay, so this is what we did yesterday. You're trying to figure out how the left side was related to the right side. So 6 and 9 are the two short sides. I'm trying to figure out how is that related to 12 squared. Okay, so 6 squared is 36, 9 squared is 81, 12 squared is 144. Okay, you're trying to figure out what symbol goes here. Greater than, less than, or equal to. Okay, so 36 plus 81, okay, that's going to give me 117. If I compare that to 144, 117 is smaller. Okay, so anytime that c squared is bigger, okay, you want the bigger triangle. So you want obtuse. Okay, when the hypotenuse side is bigger, you want the bigger triangle or the bigger angle, which is an obtuse because that's a bigger than 90. Okay, so look at the right side, 144. It's greater than 117. Anytime that side's bigger, we're going with the bigger triangle, the obtuse triangle. Okay, now on number 17, you have 8, 11, and 13. Same thing, you're trying to classify this triangle. So two short sides compared to the longest side. 8 squared is 64. 11 squared is 121. Okay, comparing that to 13 squared, which is 169. If I add these two, 64 and 121, I get 185. 185 is bigger than c squared. So 169 is smaller than 185. If the right side, the c squared, is smaller than the left side, we want a smaller triangle, which is an acute triangle because that means that it's less than 90 degrees. Okay, so smaller side, smaller triangle. Okay, acute is the smaller triangle. Any questions on that page or any that you need me to go back to and show you the work for? All right, so a couple more. Okay, we have 3 left. Number 18, okay, is talking about classifying this triangle. Okay, if c squared is bigger, okay, so if c squared is bigger than the sum, blah, 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 then the triangle is acute. Okay, now we know if c squared is bigger, that the triangle is supposed to be obtuse. Okay, so this is a false statement. Okay, because anytime c squared is bigger, it's supposed to be obtuse. They're saying that it's a cube. Okay, so that's false. Okay. Now, number 19, also true or false. This triangle is a right triangle, true or false. Okay, you're assuming that this is a 90 and you're going to see if it works. Okay, so for it to be a right triangle, okay, the Pythagorean theorem has to work. So 9 squared, plus 12 squared, 12, should be equal to 15 squared. Okay, so 9 squared plus 12 squared, 81 and 144. That's going to give me 225. 15 squared, also 225. So if they're equal to each other, that works, and it does make a right triangle, so that is going to be true. Okay. Now, number 20, one more like the square playground. I know it seems like we're beating a dead horse with this, but it is one that tricks people every single year. Okay, so one more time for this one. The walkway is 24 meters long. Okay, if it's the square playground, okay, those are the two sides, and they're both the same because it's a square. Okay, so when I go to set this up, my two sides, x squared plus x squared, is equal to my hypotenuse squared. So x squared and x squared is 2x squared. 24 squared is 576. If I divide that by 2, then x squared is going to be 288. Okay, if I take the square root of that, it's not going to be a perfect square. It's going to be a decimal about 16.97. Okay, they are asking us to round this to the nearest meter, which is the nearest whole number. So again, if you type in a decimal on the quiz tomorrow, it is not going to count it right. Okay, so 16.97, you actually need to have 17 for that. Okay. Any questions or any that you guys want me to go back to?